Someone leaves your life without a word. No explanation, no fight, just silence where a person used to be. And then, weeks or months later, they come back. Maybe with an apology, maybe with none at all, just a message like nothing happened. So ask yourself what you're actually welcoming back. Is it the same person who left, or a version shaped by everything that happened while they were gone? We tend to treat return as proof of value. If someone comes back, we assume it means we mattered enough to be missed. But return and value are not the same thing, and confusing them is where most of the damage happens. Ask yourself honestly, has someone ever come back into your life and you welcomed them instantly, only to feel later like you'd made a mistake? Say yes in the comments if that's happened to you, because the reason it happens is more specific than people think. Psychologists who study attachment describe something called intermittent reinforcement, a pattern where reward is unpredictable rather than constant. This idea comes originally from behaviorist research on operant conditioning, most famously B.F. Skinner's work, showing that inconsistent rewards produce stronger, more persistent behavior than consistent ones. A gambler who wins every time stops finding it exciting. A gambler who wins occasionally, unpredictably, becomes far harder to pull away from the machine. Human relationships are not slot machines, but the same underlying mechanism applies to how our brains respond to unpredictable connection. Someone who disappears and reappears is, often without meaning to, creating exactly that pattern. Presence becomes valuable specifically because it is inconsistent. This is why the return can feel more intense than the relationship ever did while it was steady. The nervous system does not simply register that someone is back. It registers relief from an absence it did not choose. And relief is a powerful emotion that gets mistaken for love, for meaning, for rightness. But relief is not evidence that something is good for you. It is evidence that something painful has temporarily stopped. Here is where it gets more complicated, because not every return is manipulation, and treating it that way oversimplifies something genuinely human. Sometimes people leave because they are overwhelmed, confused, or working through something that has nothing to do with you, and their return is sincere. The Stoics were unusually clear-eyed about this kind of ambiguity. Epictetus taught that our task is not to control what other people do, including whether they leave or return, but to examine clearly what is actually within our power, which is how we interpret and respond to their actions. That distinction matters enormously here, because the question worth asking is not why did they leave, or why did they come back. Those are things you were never able to control. The real question is, what pattern am I willing to accept now that I have new information about how this person moves through relationships? Consider two friends who fall out of touch for a year. One reaches out with a clear explanation, takes ownership of the silence, and rebuilds the relationship deliberately. The other reappears casually, as though no time passed, offering warmth but no accountability. Both are technically people who came back. But only one of them is treating you as someone whose experience of their absence mattered. The other is treating the relationship as a tab that can be reopened at will, with no cost for having closed it in the first place. This is where Marcus Aurelius offers something sharper than comfort. He wrote repeatedly about judging people by their actions across time rather than by isolated moments, because a single gesture, including a return, tells you very little compared to a pattern observed with patience. Someone's presence is not proof of their character. Their consistency is. A wolf that visits occasionally is still a wolf, no matter how gently it knocks. There's also a quieter psychological reason people accept inconsistent returns so easily, and it has less to do with the other person and more to do with self-worth. Accepting someone back unconditionally can feel in the moment like proof that you are lovable enough to be worth returning to. But that logic quietly hands your sense of worth over to someone else's unpredictable behavior, which means your stability now depends on whether they decide to stay this time. So the real shift is not learning to reject everyone who ever left. It's learning to stop mistaking their return for resolution. A return is not an ending. It is new evidence, nothing more, nothing less. And what you do with that evidence is the only part of this that was ever yours to control. People don't come back because they've changed. They come back because something in them, or something in the space you left empty, pulled them toward it. Whether that space should still be open is the only real question worth answering. If this changed how you think about someone who came back into your life, tell me about it in the comments, and subscribe if this gave you a new way to see it.